Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I had always thought that it was something that could have been disrupted by machine, and some might say that that's like, how one would approach it, coming from more of a third dimensional area where you're not dealing with time in a superposition form, but rather as a linear form. And because I looked at Tesla's experiments and things like that, the Philadelphia experiment, all these different things about how they had manipulated time or done to different timelines. Um, Al Biblick, all of that. I've looked into all these different things, and I've seen that people ended up in different outcomes, different timelines. They never went from one end of where they were linearly to a different point in their linear timeline. They would leave where they were linearly and end up somewhere else where different things had happened, which I didn't really understand. But then when I started to see the Mandela effect, I saw like, oh, there are many, many outcomes, and sometimes they even intersect with each other, which is more of a fourth dimensional thing, which I'm only just starting to understand, because I had taken it just very literally that fourth dimensional existence just meant that time was being added to the structure. But now I'm seeing, no, it's the point where linear time is no longer where linear time is basically obsolete, and you exist in more of a superposition format where it's not following that, like where the past can affect the future can rewrite the past, and different things from different parts of different timelines can intersect with your reality. You're not just staying in your own lane on the highway, so to speak. You're branching off into different lanes. And anyways, going back to Tesla, they had used electromagnetism. They had used electricity in an offset pulse to be able to basically disrupt, if you will, the fabric of time, but they didn't quite crack it. And anyone that's looked into the Philadelphia experiment will see that that was kind of an issue, because they had found a way, and I'm sure there's far more, far more complex parts of that were never made public. They found a way to disrupt time as we see it, linear time. But then when the atoms all rejoined and basically the ship reappeared, it rejoined randomly. So people were fused into the boat, or they had come apart into different parts, and it was quite the disaster. And what we're seeing now is we're not in an area of life where we're dealing with that. We're not. I don't think that they're using machines to time travel at this point in time. I think it is whatever's happened to us since then. People who have never touched a time machine now are living in more of a fourth dimensional existence, where we're seeing different parts of time affect different parts of time.
I like that. I like that a lot, because that's, like these books and all the strange coincidences that we're all seeing, and the Mandela effect and all of those, and the Bible changes. It truly is a point where we used to take for granted that the present, meaning the moment that we're all experiencing, that's what's actually in control, and that it will determine the future, and that it was beholden to the past. And what we're all starting to see is that these illusions of all three of those parts are now on equal footing, and that all we need now is to be able to somehow perceive one another, the past, the present, and the future. And if we can somehow, and maybe perhaps some people have already done this, and that's why we're seeing something like the last president or Barron Trump, that those breakthroughs perhaps are becoming natural or dissolving or whatever it may be. And as this happens, they no longer have to be in that sequence where the center of the universe used to be the present,
Yeah, like in a fourth dimensional space, there's no reason why the Trumps getting elected in 2016 wouldn't rewrite the past 100 years before that, because the past and the future are like mirrors facing each other now, and the information is just bouncing back and forth through the present.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I believe that. And then whenever you kind of layer all of that with the possibility of there being more than one versions of the present and more than one version of reality, then things get incredibly interesting with those possibilities because that itself then isn't so far-fetched. And, you could be looking at the possibility of multiple outcomes in the past, multiple outcomes in the future, and multiple versions of the present. And, a lot you and I spoke about this before is where people were hearing and even claiming that they, not only, were not only feeling the rattling of Armageddon or a world war, but were actually remembering parts of it. I myself think that things changed myself personally, as I believe you do too. I don't think that we're in the same place.